Greetings everyone and welcome back. My name is Alfred, and in this episode we're going to install the GitLab server. But before we do that, we would want to install the VirtualBox first, then install the Ubuntu server for our GitLab. So let's go ahead and head over to the VirtualBox website. It's the Oracle VirtualBox. So let's go ahead, and this is the website where you can get your copy of the VirtualBox. Go ahead into the downloads, and here you find the copies that you would want to download for your host. I am using Windows, so I'll have to download the Windows host, but I've already done that, so I don't not want to go ahead and download this VirtualBox again. But if you've not already downloaded your copy, just go ahead and download and install for your machine. Right after downloading the VirtualBox, something else that we would want to do is to download the Ubuntu server. So let's just go ahead and download the Ubuntu server. Head over to the Ubuntu website here, and by default the desktop is selected by default, but we do not want to install the desktop for now. Maybe we'll be installing this one later when we'll start making a desktop clients to our servers. But for now, let's just go ahead and click on the server button here or link here, and that should take you to the current LTS Ubuntu version, and it's 22.04.2 as an LTS. So just go ahead and download a copy for yourself. I've already done that, so I'm not going to repeat downloading another copy of the Ubuntu server. All right, and so after that, the next thing to do is to bring in the VirtualBox that you've already downloaded and installed on your machine. I've already installed on mine as well. So I'm just going ahead and say VirtualBox, and it's gonna boot up the VirtualBox. And here I have the interface for the VirtualBox. And what I would do, I would just go ahead and click here on the new button here. It's going to bring this console here, or this interactive screen here, where I'm going to enter a name for my virtual machine. So I'll just go ahead and say this one will be, I'll call it dev GitLab server, like that. That will be the name of my uh, GitLab server. So here I'm going to choose a folder where I would want to store this virtual machine. I'm not going to install it on the default location, which is in C drive, because for one reason I do not have enough space there. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to look for another place to install the machine, and that will be in my local disk E. Here I'm going to have this folder here. This is the folder that I'm going to use for my server. All right. So I'm going to select that folder, and it's the one which is there right now. And then I'm going to bring in the ISO file of Ubuntu that we just downloaded. So mine, I have it in my desktop here. If you open this, you can see I already have my copy here. All right. So I'm going to bring that in, and I'm going to skip the unattended installation. I do not want that. And here, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to click next, like that. All right. So here, what I want a memory of at least 8 gigs. So I'll bring in my calculator here. And what I want to do, I just want to calculate. I need 8 gigs. So that will be 8 times 1024, and that will be 8192. All right. So here, I'm just going ahead and say 8192, depending on the amount of memory you have on your machine. Just go and give it an appropriate amount of RAM. All right, and then the number of CPU here, I'm going to have 2 for this machine. All right, and now I'm going to click next. For the disk size, I'm going to have it as default 25 GB. All right, and then I'm going to go ahead, and this is just the summary of what we have configured already. I'm going to click on finish, like that. So here, one thing I can do in the network here, I'm going to bring in the network, and I'm going to leave this one in bridged adapter, and it's the same as this one. So both of them, we're going to use the two adapters, adapter 1, adapter 2, and both of them, I'm going to have them on the bridged adapter attachment. All right, and then I'm going to have that, and here I'm going to click next. And now what I can do, I can just go ahead and click start here to start the installation of the Ubuntu server. And here now it starts booting up the machine. it's going to ask me if I want to try or install the Ubuntu server. I'm going to select the first option, and that should start installing the Ubuntu server. It's going to take some time. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pause the video, and when an interactive screen comes up, I'll come back and continue from there. And now, as you can see, I have an interactive screen. And what I'm going to do, here I'm going to choose the language, and I'll choose English. And then I'll click enter on my keyboard. That should take me to the second screen, which is this one. I'm going to continue without updating. And here I'm just going to say done. And here I'm just going to scroll until I say done again. But what I'm going to do here, I'm going to change I want to change my IP address here so that I can use a static IP address instead of using the one that is assigned by the network, all right, or by my router. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to click here and I'm going to choose the editor IP4. I'm going to edit this. I'll get manual. And then here, what I'm going to do, I'm going to have these inputs here manually. All right, so I'll start by subnet, and then I'm going to say it will be 192, then it's going to be 0.168, then I will have 0, then I'll have 1, and then I'm going to have 24, like that. 192, 168. Yeah, and this one should not be one, it should be 0. And now here we can just go ahead and put in our IP address that we want to have on this machine. And as for me, I'm going to have one going to have 196 192 168. Then I'm going to have 0, and then I'm going to have 1, and my IP address I would want it to have to be 191, like that. So that's what it's going to be, the IP address, the static IP address of my server. And the gateway, I'm going to have 8.8.8.8, then comma and comma here, 8.8. So I'm going to have 8.8.8.8, and then I'm going to have 8.4.4. Then it should be 8.8. I should have another hit here, and then I'm going to, and for some reason it's not taking the comma that I'm supposed to have. And this is wrong. I'm putting it in the wrong place. This is the gateway, not the name server. So the gateway is going to be 192, and then I'm going to have 168, and then I'm going to have it's going to be 0 and then 1, like that. And then the name servers is what it's going to be 8, then 8, then 8, then 8, then comma here, then 8, then 4. No, then 8, then 4, then 4, like that. And for the search domain, this is just the server name, and I'm going to say this one will be dev GitLab server, like that. And then I'm going to save that, and that's the IP address that we are going to be using here. All right, so I'll go ahead and say done. It's going to ask me for a proxy address. I do not have that. For the mirror address, I'm going to use the same. And here it's going to ask if I want to use the entire disk. I'll just say okay. And here it's just the configurations, and I'm going to say done. I'm going to click on continue. It's going to ask me for the name of the guy who's going to be logging into this machine. I'm going ahead and put in my name, and then the server name is going to be dev GitLab server, and then the username, I'm going to put the name, and password, I'm going to have just password. And I'm going to repeat the password again, like that. And then I'm going to say done. And it's going to ask me if I need to enable the Ubuntu Pro. I'm going to say no and just continue. Ask me if I want to install the Open SSH server. I'll say okay, I need that. And then I'm going to say done. And I'm going to scroll down here. And I am going to say done. All right. And that now it should start installing the Ubuntu on my machine. All right. So at this time, I do not have an interactive screen. So I'm going to pause the video. I'll wait for an interactive screen to come on, and then I'll come back. Okay, so the Ubuntu server installed successfully. And now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to say reboot now. And that should restart the Ubuntu server. And then when we come back, we should go directly to the server itself. All right, and now we are logged into the Ubuntu server that we just installed. What we can do, we can just go ahead and try to log in. I'll use my name as I used when I was installing the OS, and then password. Remember, we said to be password. And now, as you can see, I am already logged in. And as you can see here, I have the IP addresses, IP address 4 with 191 and another IP address 4 with 154. All right, and what we can do, we can just check if this machine has if this virtual machine has internet connection. And for me to do that, I'm going to ping uh, just a website, and I typed it wrong. It should be the other way around. And as you can see, we can ping a website. That means the machine is connected to the internet. Now, one thing that I want to do, I want to be able to connect to this machine from my administration machine, which is the Windows machine. So for me to be able to do that, I'll go ahead and try to see the IP address. So I will type here IPA, and that should give me the IP address that I should connect to. I have two IP addresses. I have the 191, and then I have the 154. All right. So what I want to do right now is to go ahead and try to connect to this machine through an SSH client. All right. So for me to do that, I'm going to bring in the Git bash. I'm using the Git bash to communicate to this machine here. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to have SSH, then I'm going to have my name, and it's going to be at the IP address of the server. So the IP address, let's try 192, which the one which is static that we created, then 168, then 0, and then 191. It's going somewhere else. So SSH, and then it's Alfred, and then at 192, 168, and then it's 0, then 191, like that. Let's try to see. And as you can see, it's going to tell us that the remote has changed. So for us to be able to do this, to be able to connect to this machine, what we can do, we can just go ahead and remove the known host for now. All right, so I'm going to say rm, and inside SSH, then there is known hosts. All right. So let's try again to connect. And now here it asks us to confirm that we want to connect to that machine. And I'm going to say yes. Of course, I need to connect to that machine. It's going to ask me for my password. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to say it's password. And I typed it wrong maybe. So password. And that should let us inside the machine, the Ubuntu server machine that we just created just a moment ago. So one thing we can do while we are here, as you can see, whenever we want to connect to this machine, we're going to provide the password. We do not want that when we come to automating. We want to be able to connect it directly to this machine without it asking us for password. Because when the machines will be communicating with other machines, for example, a server and a server, there's not one who is going to be there to provide the password. All right. So we need a way to communicate directly from the server machine to our administration console or to our development machine. All right. And the way we can do that, we can use the um, SSH keys, right? So let's go ahead and see if we already have the SSH keys in our administration machine, which is the one running Windows right now. And the way I can do that, I'll go here and I'll bring another copy of the Git bash. I'll put it down here. This one I'm going to have it up here. I'll have this copy here. And for me to be able to check that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to list whatever is in the SSH directory. And as you can see, I have some keys here, all right? And I have this key here, and this key is what we are going to use to connect to our machine here, or our GitLab server here, all right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to just copy that key. So I'm going to cut that key is the ID rs, and I want the one with .pub or the public key. So I'm going to cut that. I'm going to copy this, copy. I'll go back here in my server, which is above here. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to sudo nano. I'll use nano to edit the uh, authorized keys file in the server here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go inside the SSH folder here, and then there is authorized keys file. If this file is not there, just go ahead and create it. All right, it's going to ask me for password, and I'm going to put in the same password, and then I'm going to come here and I paste in whatever I just copied from down here, and I'm going to Control O to write out, and then I'm going to going to enter, then Control X, and that has been written to that file. If you were to bring back that file, as you can see, we already have that key being written in the authorized keys file. So it means that this key from our administration machine here is authorized to go through the GitLab server without asking for the password. All right, so let's see if that's true. What I'm going to do, I'm going to exit the console here. As you can see now, I'm not connected to the server, and I'm going to try again to connect. And as you can see now, this time around, it did not ask for the password. All right, that's one thing out of the way. We still have another problem with the password. And this problem is when we are inside our server here and we try to do any administrative task, for example, that requires an elevated administrative privileges, for example, the sudo tasks, it's going to ask us for password. So for example, if I say sudo top or anything that requires the password, it's going to ask me for password, right? And we do not need this. We want, if we are using this machine, if we're allowed to use this machine, we can do anything or we can run any command without requiring to physically provide the password. All right, and so the way to do that, we can go ahead and allow the sudo members to be able to execute sudo tasks without the need to provide their passwords. So the way we are going to do that, we are going to have sudo, then vsudo. It's going to ask us for password. So for the first time, let's go ahead and provide the password. I'll say, that's my password. It's going to open this file for us here. All right, and as you can see, there is these members of the sudo here. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to edit this file. First of all, I'm going to just comment out this sudo line here. And I'm just going to go down here. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to edit that file so that I can give the sudo members an option to go ahead and execute the sudo commands without them needing to provide the physical password. So here I have it like this, sudo or equal all, and there's a space here, no password, and password, you can see it's mistyped. And then we have a colon here, and then we have all, right? I'm going to Control all, I enter Control X to write that. Now let's see if we're going to be asked for the password when we try to vsudo again. And as you can see now, it does not ask us for password. Let's try this command, and as you can see, it does not ask us for any password. All right, so that's the password out of the way. We're going to stop here in this video. When we come back, we will start installing the GitLab instance on this dev GitLab server. Thank you very much for being with me on this one. I'll see you in the next one.